You are listening to the Brain Profits Podcast. We bring awareness to the reality that, in large, people allow their brains to control them, which is causing difficulty at school, at work, and in life.
Success in life and business starts in the brain. Therefore, we want to explore the challenges that exist for people and organizations so that they are in control of their brains and not the other way around.
Listen in, be inspired, and take back control of your brain, and you'll create optimal results in your life, organization, and community.
Ready to start the show? We are, so let's go. All right, Philippe, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, just staying busy, and it is cold here in New York. It's actually colder inside the houses than it is outside.
Why? Is you got like heating element issues?
Because usually in New York, they don't turn on heat until October 15th. Doesn't matter how cold it is.
Oh, you know what? That is right. I forgot all about the landlords and the city people controlling the heat. Do you have like a radiator? How does it work at the house in there?
I mean, I do. I'm having the plumber come out today because I'm like, dude, you gotta turn this on.
So down here in the South, in Tennessee, we have what they call these central heating systems, and so I get to control the heat, hot and cold in my house. So, and it feels nice outside anyways. So it's like 71, 72 high up today, and nights going down to the 40s. But that's like with the sun kind of heating the house through the natural radiation, the house doesn't really give off that much heat or give up too much heat. So we just, all that stuff gets us turned off. And we get to save the energy, which is huge right now, right? So for the next couple of months, I expect to have a pretty low, electricity bill because of that. So I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
So anyways, we have a pretty exciting show for today. We're going to talk a little bit about sports. And so we're bringing on a former athlete, or he probably can consider himself still a current athlete, Mr. Harlan Harris, a producer from the Roll Up Network. He's going to come on to talk about some of the things that are happening a little bit in the NFL, because people are starting to get some hit pretty hard, and those things are causing concussions, specifically to the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. He's been taking some shots, and it's just wild because I remember when he was in college, he didn't seem to take that many shots. He seemed to be really elusive, but now in the NFL, he lost his elusivity and he is getting drilled. The changing speed of the game is not caught up with his health factor. But we got Mr. Harlan on. Harlan, what's going on, man?
Man, I'm doing great. How are y'all? Man, that is wild. I did not know that New York gets to control how your heat goes on and off. That is wild.
In the city.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
That is wild. But I'm happy to be here, man. Looking forward to it.
Harlan, I'm happy to have you here because I am often the only athlete on this show. So it's good to have a fellow athlete.
When do you get to lose the athlete status, man?
You never do.
Yeah.
You never do. I think actually the last athlete we had on this show was a neurologist also.
Who?
Dr. Jessica Floyd, right?
Oh,
she
yeah,
was a basketball player. Yeah.
She's a player. Yeah.
It's good when we have athletes because and Doug doesn't really understand sports or sports references, so it's good.
What are you talking about? I understand all the sports references. I watch college football most weekends, and sometimes college basketball for sure. The NBA during the playoff times these days. NFL, I kind of stopped watching once my Giants drafted Daniel Jones. I kind of stopped watching the NFL. I couldn't do it, man. That saddened me to the core. I was like, oh, we got a draft. We had like a number 5 pick. And then they're like, and Daniel Jones from Duke. And I'm like, what?
Well, let me tell you about Daniel Jones. He's probably going to be out this weekend for a sprained ankle, and Miami put Tua in with a freaking concussion. But we'll get to that at some point. Let's hear a little bit about your story, Harlan.
Yeah, so I played at Childs High School in Tallahassee, Florida, born and raised, go Noles. I got a scholarship to go to St. John's River, to community college right there south of Jacksonville. I played my first 2 years there. And then once I graduated from there, I played my last 2 years of baseball at Valdosta State up here in Georgia. I was catcher for 12, 13 years. However, last thing I started at 9 years old. And then once I used up all my eligibility at Valdosta State. I was done. Now I'm still consider myself an athlete. Like we were talking about earlier, I still play men's softball. So still playing.
And the ball's not soft. Tell the people.
It is not soft. No, I don't know why they call it that, but it's not soft.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. Well, hey, let's jump into it, man. So this show is about really how society at large doesn't really know how to use their brains correctly. And then if you did, or if we focused on it, we'd actually make different and better decisions. And I know that you were watching sports, I guess when you were playing sports, and even when you watch it, can you see where people seem to like not think at what you would think would be a higher level? Like, you know, you would consider like, man, I'm surprised that person missed this or missed that, you know, but even before the injury started.
Yeah, for sure. And I've kind of, like we talked about it earlier off the pod, but I've experienced it as well. I mean, baseball is a very fast-paced game. As much as people don't like and say baseball is very slow-paced, when you're playing the game, it's a lot different than you think. I mean, the pitch is coming in 96, 100 miles an hour. To me, that's not slow. But you can definitely and you'll hear people say baseball is all mental. Mental. It might be the most mental game that there is. So
yeah, because you're doing a lot more standing around. Now I'll say this: I know that I don't really want to consider myself the athlete like Philippe does. I didn't play college sports like that to that degree, but I had friends. Cause I grew up in Florida too. Did high school in there, and I had friends who played baseball. And I remember one time getting, you know, hey, we're going to play pickup baseball, which, you know, was like my first time doing that. And I'd played softball, of course, you know, it's school kids in Florida, they got all the sports going on. But I go out there and these guys are throwing the fastball. And I remember it going so fast, just hoping, please don't hit my legs. That's all I remember. Please don't hit my knees. And the guy walked me. That's my only bet I kind of remember. I got walked and then, you know, I'm on base. But it was an interesting thing. You're right. The game is much, much different when you're in the thick of the play, in the heat of the battle. It's wild. Anyways, when it comes to football, man, you're a Florida State fan, and so I'm sure you watch them religiously. What do you think about the way the decision making happens on the field of play there?
I mean, the last few years I haven't liked it, but this year I like it so far. I mean, 4-1. I definitely think, you know, I've never played tackle football, but I've watched it a lot. And I think all sports, honestly, are mental. I mean, there's so much that like you said, I mean, your brain is really everything. It goes from the quarterback, you know, trying to read a DB to what the O-line is letting through and not letting through, what play they're running, trying to read his zone defense. Are they in man? I mean, it's got to be difficult. And I know they struggled a little bit this weekend, but I've enjoyed what I've seen so far.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, so let's talk about Tua, because he's the rave. This episode is going up this week. It actually will go up tomorrow for those who are listening and watching. But he's been getting hit a lot, is from what I've heard. So I'm not a Miami fan, so I don't really watch them. But from what I'm hearing, he's getting hit so much that one of the headlines in Yahoo Sports this week was why Miami Dolphins and ex-Alabama quarterback Tua should consider retirement. Wow, he just got in the league, and I don't even know if he played last year. I thought he was hurt last year, right? So they want him to retire already? What is happening to him out on the field?
I mean, were you asking me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I know last week. Yeah. So I know last week he went down and his head slammed against the turf and he got up and stumbled off the field a little bit. And, you know, everyone that's watching is like, oh, that's got to be a concussion. It's got to be a head injury. And then they came out and said it was something with his back. And that already threw up a red flag. Like, everyone that saw that play was like, why is he dizzy? Why is he stumbling and falling to the ground, coming to the sideline? Then the doctor came out and they reported that it was like a back injury or something. And then he comes out and plays the next week.
Which is a shortened week.
Yeah. So what was it, 4 days later, 5 days later?
He played on a Sunday, then turned around and played on a Thursday night?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then got his head slammed again on a sack. And I mean, everyone saw it. I mean, he was out. His hands were up, making these weird. I mean, he was out, and it was very scary. And I know that they fired the doctor, whoever made that diagnosis. But I think it's wild, absolutely wild, that he came back out and played on Thursday.
Yeah. Wow.
Can we just for a second just give a real quick definition of what a concussion is? Because a
Yeah, let's go.
concussion is basically a head trauma, then you have any neurological symptom. That's what a concussion is. You hit your head and you develop some neurological symptom. That could be a headache, it could be dizziness, it could be stumbling, it could be whatever, right? And so you're right. Everybody saw him stumble. That is a concussion. He should not be back in that same game, right? He should be undergoing their concussion protocol.
Well, you don't think that he did? Did they say that he didn't?
I mean, he was back in the same game.
Yeah, but
no,
he could have passed the protocol.
Yeah, they said he passed protocol. So whatever protocol that was.
Well, here's what you know about professional sports, especially the NFL.
Mhm.
All they care about is getting their players out there. They do not care about the health of their players the way that they should be, right? And so even I've known doctors who work for these professional sports teams. The pressure to get these players out on the field is enormous.
I wonder,
especially when they're playing as well as Tua was. He was playing so well.
Right. And Tua is a small guy, dude. You've got these big linebackers, just they just push this small guy and he goes flying, dude.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I wonder, like, all right, so in the second time he got hit, they said his fingers seized up and stiffened up really awkwardly. I wonder if he was seizing to some degree.
Yeah, he might have.
Losing that level of functionality where your hands don't just go limp, but they start doing other things is a tremendous signal that's being sent from the brain back to the body. That's wild.
No, he might have definitely had a seizure. Right. And again, I was asked yesterday, like, how long do I think Tua needs to be out? I'm like, Tua needs to be out for at least 2 weeks at this point. At least. Dude, maybe longer. And depending on
rigorous protocols, like not some 5-minute test.
You know what's really weird about quarterbacks is I wonder why they don't have them or let them allow them to wear that second layer of helmet protection. So like when they're practicing, they actually add another like helmet on top of the helmet to try to prevent concussions, during the practice times throughout the week. But then during the game, they of course take that off, and the lesser protective material is what stays. So I'm wondering if it would be advantageous from just the quarterback position to wear that extra, protective gear.
Well, I think in general, we need new helmet technology, because the reality is that helmets are not designed to prevent brain injury. They're designed to prevent skull fractures, which is a very different thing. Right. And so we've got to get better if we want this sport to continue. And I personally think that 100, 200 years from now, they're going to look back and be like, boxing, football, MMA, like these guys were barbaric. Right. And I appreciate watching football, but I will never let my kids sign up for football.
Like, what about NFL Flag 60? What if they want to do it on their own? Like Nini Sobo.
When they're 18,
let him play football.
When they're 18, they can make that decision on their own, but there's no way as a neurologist I would ever endorse my kids playing football. And let me tell you something, like this is going to sound really, really bad, but you've got in football, not only are you having brain injuries, right, as a result, may not be apparent at the time, but people are causing structural changes to occur in their brains. They're causing neurons to shear, to tear apart. They're causing micro blood vessels to tear apart. That stuff has a significant impact in the long term, right? And then you've got people who are solving their work problems through violence, right? Because football is a violent sport. Dude, I've literally told women I know, you need to be careful dating these football players. You need to be careful dating these boxers. They've got traumatic brain injury, which already decreases their level of, or it makes them a lot more impulsive, potentially. And then they're solving their work issues through violence. Like, how do you think that they're going to handle challenges in relationships and in their personal lives?
That's a good point. Now, Harlan, you got hit in the head with a ball, right? How fast was that ball going? And what? She's a lot. How did that affect you? How do you feel it affected you?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting you mentioned the helmets, because I don't know how much I'll watch baseball, but there's actually two different type of catcher's helmets. There's one that is just a mask on the front, and you wear this soft shell on the top, and then there's actually the full hockey mask. Like if you watch hockey, they have a full bar cage that you put on. I was dumb and young, and the 2-piece one, less protective one, looks way cooler. So I wanted the cool, just slimmer one that just goes on the front and that kind of just hangs there. But practice is all about making the game seem easy. So our pitchers would throw anywhere from 94 to 90. And so in practice, they would put a pitching machine that can throw up to 120 miles an hour. And basically just you drop it in the pitching machine and you catch it. So obviously reaction time wise, trying to catch a pitch that's 110, 115 is going to make 94 to 96 look a lot slower. So you try to make practice harder than the game. Well, we were there practicing and I was catching 110, 111, 113. And those pitching machines and those laces, you got to think when you put it in that machine, if it grabs a lace wrong or when a ball's moving that fast, I mean, I don't know anything about aerodynamics or anything like that, but this one rose. So instead of going straight, it rose and I couldn't react in time. So it hit me square in the face. And that is the last thing I remember. I woke up on the ground with catcher's gear on. My mask was like sideways. They said I was out for maybe a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And I couldn't remember anything. I didn't know where I was. I don't know why I had catcher's gear on. I don't know what day it was. They did the whole finger thing, like how many fingers am I holding? I could see how many fingers were holding up, but I didn't know anything other than what in the heck just happened. Like, why am I here? And that was at a junior college. So I did not go through any concussion protocol or anything. I'm pretty sure I played 2 days later. I was fine.
I'm starting to wonder about these colleges and these sports programs with how they like medically clear people. Philippe has a story similar to that when he got injured or had a medical emergency on the court. Yeah. And they just kind of like, hey, let's lay it off, walk it off.
Yeah.
Go back to what happened, what they do with you.
The 2 other catchers in my group. So I went first. That was the first time we ever did that drill at 110 miles an hour. The other 2 catchers in my group did not participate in that drill after they saw me go down. So that drill was never repeated. That drill was never done again. That was the end of that practice drill forever.
Well, at least they learned something.
Yeah. And the fact that you got hit in the head and then lost consciousness is the most severe type of concussion. So if you're grading it, you're going to grade it the highest that you can potentially grade a concussion.
So what would you grade Tua's? Because I mean, as far as I know, I didn't have any like hand movements of
if Tua, I would grade him at a really high level for this last concussion. Yeah. Like, frankly, if this was not professional sports, and I've had to take people out of football and soccer as a neurologist. Like I've had to be like, I'm sorry, I'm not clearing you. And like, you're done for the season. You've had 5-6 concussions in the last 2 months. Like you should not be playing this sport. Yeah. Right. If this was not professional football, I'd be like, Tua, you're out for the season. You just had 2 back-to-back concussions. One of them looked like you had a freaking seizure on the field.
Yep. Man.
Right? Like, wow. Like it's funny because like if we injure other parts of our bodies, right? Like I said, Daniel Jones, probable for the Giants game this weekend because of a sprained ankle, right? Like people understand that. There's no issue with that, right? Because they're like, oh, sprained ankle, can't really walk, can't run. There's an injury there. Well, a concussion is an injury to your brain, to the organ that is the most important organ in your body. And you're telling me you're not giving that time to heal? Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that the injury is not there.
Yeah. And just because you feel fine too. Like I felt fine a day later, but that doesn't mean there wasn't probably something still healing.
Yeah. And so that's why, one, you've got to take it out of the player's hand, right? Because the player wants to make the decision to be on the field. Their natural competitive instinct is, no, I want to play, right? So you can't allow them to make that decision. You can't allow their coaches to make that decision. You can't allow their trainers and the owner of a team to make that decision. You have to have like independent people that are not affiliated being like, nope, you're out. But I'm sure the problem with that too is, those people who are making those decisions are getting death threats either way.
Yeah. So you think that doctor for the Dolphins at least felt some pressure, like, hey, you're not going to tell him that he can't play. Like,
Oh,
you think that was a conversation?
Yeah.
Well-
I'm sure, especially after that first one. And then I think when he saw the second one, he was like, oh crap, I'm definitely fired.
No, well, I'm gonna take a look at the play, so you can see how it went down. Here it goes. You seeing this?
So you look at that little guy getting spun around like.
Look at his hands.
No, I know.
Look at his eyes. His eyes were closed.
Are they closed?
Yeah, they were closed.
Mm.
They even had to put him out on a stretcher.
Usually if somebody has a seizure,
This
like
is the
a
one
seizure
from the
that
Sunday.
impacts
That was the last one.
Yeah. If somebody has a seizure, one that impacts your entire brain, usually your eyes will be open.
See, that is not a back issue. That can't be back.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's
Not at all.
wild.
The interesting thing is the blunt of the force was the ground. Like, it's not a player helmet to helmet. Like, his helmet is getting slammed and bounced on the turf.
Yep.
So you got to think I think that's almost worse than a helmet.
Probably because of the way that's underneath
ground's
it.
not moving. The ground is not moving.
Not much.
Yeah.
Not much, at least. Maybe
Listen,
they'll go back to playing the natural grass in more places.
I don't know, but they need to figure something out. All right, because I was listening to, I think it was on Sports Center. They were talking about so many parents are holding their kids out of playing, tackle football, that they're concerned that 15, 20 years from now, that you're not going to have the same high level athletes playing.
I feel like you will. I don't know. 15 years from now, maybe.
Yeah, because if these kids are not playing tackle now, right? If their parents are holding them out of
we got to
football
look
now,
at so you got to look at, to me, the socio-economical push on who's playing. Like in the beginning, when football first started, the socialites played it, and then it moved down the ladder of the socio-economical playbook. So if you look at it that way, there's a lot of money to be made from certain techniques, but it'll maybe go back to maybe like how it was played during the 90s, maybe that level of talent. So you maybe not have like these high flying quarterbacks running around, but it may be like, Lawrence Taylor's out there.
Right. I was going to say the 90s, you had the LT. Are you freaking crazy? That dude was out of his mind. He was coked up half the time going after people. Like, are you freaking nuts?
No, I'm saying that's the type of people that may, not just him, but that the way that the game was played, I think it may go back just to that.
Tell the quarterback just to stay in the pocket.
Baseball's going to be back, baby. They're going to stop playing football. You're going to start playing baseball again. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what you're hearing?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, you just described a freaking horrible concussion from playing baseball.
No,
yeah, I think in comparison, I don't think there's as many. There's not
no. There's not. Unless the pitcher really doesn't like baseball.
It may move to that new type of wiffle baseball where they're curving the ball like 10 feet away from the batter's box, and then it swoops in, and then you got to hit that.
I mean, I know I'm biased, but this is why I say tennis is the greatest sport of all time. You don't have to worry about concussions.
Tennis? Oh, jeez. So the other side, I would say, I know it's a little bit of a joke to say it, but is that you got to worry about the other type of mental problems that they're seeming to pop up in the tennis world now.
I mean, it's everywhere, dude. I mean, Ben Simmons didn't play basketball for a year because of his mental health issues.
Is that what they're saying for him?
I mean, he'll say back, but part of it was his mental health issues.
I thought it was really just his back.
I mean, sports is stressful, right?
It was his back, just stressful. Like it was Tua's back, right?
Yeah, but I think Ben Simmons might have actually had like a back surgery, but yeah.
I guess.
But yeah, pretty much, So, but yeah, we've got to take care of people's brains, dude. We have to find a way to do a much better job, whether it's their mental health or the physical health of their brains.
Yeah. So I got to ask this question for you, Harlan. How much information do you know about your brain?
I don't really.
Do you know how heavy it is? You know how much water you should be drinking a day to make it like?
I will say I drink a lot of water, but I don't know all the information that probably I should. I mean, I was just telling a story about it, and like you said in the Twitter group, she was like, "Hey, you want to hop on?" I was like, "Heck yeah, maybe I'll learn something."
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think so. There's a lot of factors that go into brain health, and one of the things that we try to tout is that we don't know enough about our brains. The science is really in the last 10 years, it's really starting to accelerate about what we know about not just using it, but how it functions, what it's really helping us with, how it's layered. A lot of different things happening now, and more so than before. We never really thought about it. We don't, nobody really thinks about their brain. They just kind of just live their life, but their brain is controlling every action, every thought that's moving through, right? And we contend, if you want to get more out of it, you may want to know how it works. It's almost like saying, could you drive a race car faster if you knew how to tune it? Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's just like that. And so, but in order to know how to tune it, you kind of need to know what these components, what these factors are, what goes into it. Could we upgrade the gas? All types of stuff, all types of factors. And so we try to tout raise the alarm, maybe, blow the horn about making sure that we understand what our brains are capable of, what it's supposed to be doing, and then how it can take us and lead us into a better future for everybody, right? Because we could potentially, like Philippe said, man, we just make better helmets. Like, why are we not making better helmets that are, instead of being made for, stopping a brain fracture, which hardly ever happens, to, maybe preventing concussions.
Yep. I will say this, though. Athletes are much better than the general public in terms of keeping their brains really healthy and getting a lot out of their sort of brain power, right? Because athletes are constantly moving, and movement keeps your brain healthy. It's the biggest promoter of neuroplasticity. That's your brain's ability to make new neurons and new connections. Athletes are always strategizing. They're always thinking about things differently. And this is why you see high-level athletes being successul in other endeavors. This is why you see high-level athletes being able to pick up a second language easier than the general public does.
Because it's funny, you remember back in the day, you used to talk about dumb jocks all the time. And I don't know where dumb jocks came from, but if you really start
came from concussions, dude. That's where it came from. They were having concussions.
We were concussed. Yeah. No, but if you really start talking to people after the fact, most of those guys, they're some of the smartest guys you'll know and meet when it comes to how they can think and create certain things. And actually,
see, and this is why Harlan and I get each other, because we're athletes, man.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying because they use it to such an extent, I always hear if you don't use it, it'll be great. So basically, what you're saying is they're using it, like I was kind of mentioning earlier, how they're reading a defense, they're trying to guess what this guy's doing, they're learning these plays, they're memorizing these plays, they know what this guy's route is, what that guy's route is, what the running back's doing. They're using it to that extent to where it's always staying tuned,
and they're moving. So it's a combination of all that, right? Most people are sitting down at their jobs every day, doing the same thing over and over, and not really challenging themselves. Athletes are constantly challenging themselves, plus the movement.
Yeah, we're meant to move, Harlan. Your eyes move every. I think it moves every.
Maybe not so much in baseball, but yeah.
You're meant to move, and so learning in the movement is what it's about, which will help our brains a little more. So right about that. Well, anyways, Harlan, man, thanks for coming on the show. I know this one's not a long one. We wanted to jump on, have a conversation about some of these big hits that are happening, and more than just Tua. There's a lot of guys getting hit really hard right now. I think that linebackers being faster, defensive ends being faster has been a priority over the years. And I think that even though the offensive line is a priority, those guys seem to just be heavy. And when you're heavy, you don't move as fast, which is then, you start adding that speed and force, and then one guy standing still, dudes are taking some massive, massive hits.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving your perspective. And hey, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was really fun. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Harlan Harris. Again, I'm the producer for Roll Up Network and Double Fries No Slaw. We cover everything FSU, Miami, Florida, Gators. I hate to say their name, but we cover all them too. So.
Well, for the Gator fans out there, he looks like he's wearing Gator blue today, so I don't think he hits you that much.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, man. It's nice meeting you.
Hey.
You too.
Until next time.